think there's only one word to explain the past few minutes at the state capture inquiry. They were explosive. I think Advocate Paul Pretorius is now, Sbu Ngalwa, our political editor who's with me here today, he's now at the end of his tether and he wants answers. And the big question, and it's been the big question for the past few months, hasn't it? Since we've heard all of the evidence at the state capture inquiry around the politicization of the state security agency. Arthur Fraser's name comes up. He's still occupying a director general position. David Mahlobo, the former state security minister, his name comes up as well. He's also in government, deputy minister in the Department of Human Settlements. The question that that Paul Pretorius, pardon me, was getting at is, why has the president not acted against these people?
And it's a very important question, and I think that response by the president was to be expected, because he always defers to a future report, in that he has not acted against these two individuals when there are serious allegations against them, Michelle. To say that he will wait for the finalization of the process of the report is actually a bit disingenuous. And I think that's also why the Deputy Chief Justice pointed out to him to say that even when he hands over this report to the president, he is sure, he's convinced that one of the people implicated, or if there's any adverse finding against anyone, that person will take it on review. So effectively saying that if we're to follow what the president is saying, then he will never act until that review process, no matter how long it takes, is concluded. And it's also an issue, a contentious issue, which also came up, the lack of accountability on the part of the ANC, and how the ANC leadership uses legal processes to actually avoid accountability. The same thing was asked by the Deputy Chief Justice when the president appeared here in April, Michelle. He was asked that question in relation to people having to step aside only when they are charged with corruption. In fact, the Deputy Chief Justice is a former head of the Labour Court. He actually pointed out that even in law, and also even in formal employment, you can suspend an employee before the court process is concluded. And we saw this happen in the JSE when they fired, actually, the accused in the killing of Tsehopa Tsopule. I think that his name is Ntutuko Shoba. Yes. He was fired. So it goes into the heart of that, as to that, saying that the ANC does not have to wait until a court process before it takes action. Similarly, as you know, that members of the executive, or rather ministers, and also deputy ministers as well, they serve at the behest of the president. So the president does not have to wait for anything. He can actually fire someone for wearing ugly shoes if he wanted.
Yep. I want to just unpack a bit more about what he was asking, what Advocate Paul Pretorius was asking of the president. Because I think he really gets down to the nub of the matter when he says, he asks the question about David Mahlobo and whether he really is the best person to occupy the position he currently holds. So in 2014, between 2014 and 2017, David Mahlobo is Minister of State Security. He's then moved to the portfolio of energy. He was not included in the president's first cabinet, following that high-level review panel given to the president in 2018, finding, and the question that Advocate Paul Pretorius here is asking is not whether David Mahlobo is guilty of any malfeasance or of any wrongdoing, although he does say there is prima facie evidence to suggest that that is true. But the question he's asking is this a person who should be appointed? He's been appointed in 2019 despite these findings against him. The question he's asking this president is, was that a mistake on your part, Mr. President, given that you had that report on your desk since 2018?
Sure.
Or was this a deliberate decision, and why?
And the only response to that one, Michelle, is that Cyril Ramaphosa is a politician. It was another case of political considerations being placed ahead of accountability, and also what I would call the office, or the public office, really, because David Mahlobo was very close to the former president, Jacob Zuma. I have no other explanation other than to say that the decision to keep Arthur Fraser where he is and David Mahlobo in the position that he holds as a deputy minister is actually a political consideration where he's keeping his political I would say, I'm looking for a better word than enemies.
But
close by, you know, where he's
yeah.
keeping them close by. There is no other consideration. In the same way, that would explain some of the bizarre appointments that have raised eyebrows, given the recent reshuffle.
Yeah.
So I think we must disabuse ourselves of this notion that a politician can act or should be acting outside the norms of what politicians do. At the very least, at the basic level, politicians look out for their interests. And there is no other explanation here other than the fact that the appointment of David Mahlobo was nothing more than a political consideration by the president to perhaps neutralize the so-called RET faction within the ANC.
Yeah.